Hello everyone, this is Dave from Dave's Recent Things. What are we going to do today? I wonder. Today's wreath is going to be another everyday wreath. I do love doing these everyday wreaths, and I do have a ton of requests for them in comments and messages you all send me saying, everyday wreaths, Daves. We want to see the everyday wreath. So today, we're going to do another everyday wreath using the Pancake method and 10-inch poly burlap deco mesh. Why don't I just get started and I'll show you what I made. We are using the 14-inch wire wreath frame from the Dollar Tree along with this wood hanging decor, the poly burlap, which is 10 inches by 10 yards. If you don't want to use poly burlap, you can use poly deco mesh as well. And I found this welcome sign from the Dollar Tree we're going to use along with this 2.5-inch wired ribbon, this 2-inch burlap, and this 1.5-inch burlap with black polka dots, masking tape or painter's tape, along with some chalk paint and some acrylic paints. If you don't have chalk paint, you can totally use acrylic paints. That's totally fine. And I'm going to be using my regular crafting utensils to create this project today. My inspiration came from this Amazon find. This was a welcome sign I saw on Amazon. The price was a little steep. It was $25, and I was kind of thinking, you know what? I think I can do this on my own and make it a lot cheaper with products that I have on hand or products that we can find at the dollar stores. So why don't we get to making that sign first? And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to paint that welcome sign white. So I'm just using the chalk paint here. I did a couple of layers of the paint as well. You can use acrylic like I said previously. And now for our wooden disc, I'm going to add some water and some of that dark brown and just mix it all together so it's like a chocolate milk consistency. And then I'm just going to paint that on there with a large brush, let that first layer dry, and then once that's all dry, I'm going to go in with a second layer just to make it a little bit darker and then let that fully dry as well. Once it's all dry, I'm just going to add some masking tape, and then I'm just going to use my ruler to measure 4.5 inches up from the bottom of the tape and just adding more masking tape or painter's tape using my dimensions and my little nicks that I made in the wood. And then I'm just going to put some black acrylic paint down, take my paintbrush, and I'm just going to paint that black strip fully until it's all nice and covered and all nice and even. And then let's just take off that painter's tape. I love when I do this. When I take off that painter's tape and I see that sharp line, it makes me so happy. So we'll let that dry 100%. And of course, I'm going to go wash my hands as well. Once that's all dry, I'm just going to put down some hot glue, put in some pipe cleaners, add a little more hot glue on the top, and that's how we will attach our sign to the wreath. I'm going to throw that to the side, and I'm going to cut some ribbon. This is the burlap ribbon. This is 2 inches. It comes from the Dollar Tree. And then this polka dotted ribbon, I'm going to cut at 12 inches and at 14 inches to make our little bow. And of course, our dimensions for this, the ribbon number 1, there's 2 pieces at 14 inches, 1 piece at 16 inches, and ribbon number 2, 2 pieces at 12 inches, 1 piece at 14. Then I'm just going to glue them together into little disc shapes, little cylinders, if you will. And the 2 longer ones, I'm actually going to cut both ends, dovetailing them just to kind of finish them off. These are going to be the tails for our little bow. With little pipe cleaners, I am just going to crisscross those bundles, squish them together, twist that pipe cleaner around the center point, and then I'm going to find the center of that tail and then add that to the pipe cleaner as well. Once it's all closed in, I'm going to cut off the excess, bend that pipe cleaner over, and add a little hot glue just so that bow doesn't unravel. And then for our second one, I'm going to repeat the same process over again, creating our smaller little bow, adding that tail in there, twisting it around, cutting off the excess, and then I'm going to add a little more hot glue onto this one as well, put them to the side and let those dry. Now that that's all dry, Our paint is dry. We're going to add our little welcome sign. And all I'm going to do is add a little hot glue right at the end. What I didn't show you on here too is I added a little bit of that ER 6000, is that what it's called? Just to make sure it's nice and secure. I'm using these florals, but you can find florals or greenery at the Dollar Tree as well, like I just showed you. I'm just going to cut these off the stem, and now it's time to make my little bow. I'm going to fluff it a little bit, glue it all together, make sure it's nice and secured, and then I'm just going to place it onto that disc with a little more hot glue. Once I did this, I found out my tails were just a little bit too long. They covered up that welcome sign. Easy fix here. I'm just going to cut off the ends with another dovetail and just make them a little bit shorter so we can totally see that welcome sign. Once that's all done and I'm happy with that, now it's time for me to glue that greenery on there. I'm going to do 3 pieces on each side, just gluing them down. Once that's all done, we have our little welcome sign all done here. And to be honest, I think it looks pretty close to our inspiration sign. Now let's get to our wreath form. We are going to be using the 2 inner wires, so wire number 1 and 2, and the 2 middle wires, wires number 2 and 3, along with those crossbars. And that's where we're going to start our working wreath frame. So all I'm doing is I am placing that pipe cleaner around the anchor and the 2 middle wires and just giving it a little bit of a twist. And then I'm going to move on to the other anchor, and I'm going to do this 6 times around the outside, and that's going to be the 6 outside stems for our working wreath frame. Once they're all done on the outside, I'm going to come on the inside 2 wires right in the middle and repeat the same process. So again, we're just twisting around those 2 inside wires right in the middle in between the outside ones. And then we're going to finish off our working stem wreath form all ready for our wreath and our deco mesh. So we have 6 pipe cleaners on the outside and 6 on the inside. And then I just add a little bit of hot glue on the edge of the pipe cleaners right in the center so they don't move. They're stationary. The outside ones already have the stem. They're not going to move. But here is our working wreath frame. Our magical number for our cuts today, what's it going to be? It is going to be 30. So today I am cutting my mesh at 30 inches. I'm using a rotary cutter. You can use scissors if you want. I'm also using my large mat. If you don't have a mat, you can totally use a ruler. There's no rules on what you have to do here. I'm just going to start cutting my deco mesh at that 30-inch mark. And of course, I'm going to use that full roll. We want 12 pieces of deco mesh cut at the 30-inch mark. Here it is. So I'm using poly burlap mesh. And again, it's 12 pieces cut at that 30-inch mark for this pancake wreath method. I'll continue cutting until the very end, and then I'm just going to cut my ribbon at the 12-inch mark. So this is 2.5-inch wired ribbon. I'm going to be cutting these at the 12-inch mark, and this is just what we're going to add to the wreath as well. It's 2.5-inch wired ribbon, 12 pieces cut at 12 inches. Once those cuts are all done, I'm going to finish them off with a dovetail, a swallowtail, a fishtail, however you want to call it. I'm just going to finish both ends by using that cut. So we have everything cut now. It's time to make that wreath, the pancake method. We have our 30-inch roll by 10 inches, and you can see there's a natural curl to it. So I have the natural curl facing down, and I'm just grabbing my ruler for a second to show you we want to place our thumbs right in the middle. So that's the 5-inch mark. Then you're just going to anchor your thumbs down right at the edge, and your fingers are free to do the walking. Just like that Yellow Pages ad years and years ago, let your fingers do the walking. We're going to gather it all together, and that's going to create our little kind of bow tie look to this. Then we're just going to take our first stem, open it up a little bit, and we're going to place the middle of our gathered mesh right in between those 2 stems, and then I'm just going to twist it around a couple of times. Once that's done, I'm just going to overlap our edges. So you see the 2 edges there, I'm just going to overlap those 2 edges, and that's going to create and close off those open spaces. And that's going to create our little pancake method deco mesh wreath. So here you can see I'm doing the other side as well, and I'm just kind of fluffing it up a little bit. I'm just moving it around just so I can get that full pancake with those little ruffles in there as well. But there you can see our full pancake is ready, and we can move on to our second one, and we're going to do the exact same thing. Anchor our thumbs right at the bottom, let those fingers do the walking, gathering that deco mesh into your hand, and then opening up your next available stem, adding that deco mesh right in there, twisting it a couple of times, and then we're going to overlap those open ends to create our beautiful pancake on our wreath. Of course, every time I say pancake, I want pancake and maple syrup. I'm Canadian, I always want maple syrup. But you can see here how we're going, and I'm just going to move on to the next one, doing the exact same method. And of course, there's 6 on the outside that I'm going to complete right now. And once I'm finished doing that first outside layer, it's time to move on to our second layer, and that's the inside. So I'm going to find that next open pipe cleaner, and then I'm going to repeat the same method over and over again using that pancake method, placing the deco mesh right in between those pipe cleaner stems, twisting it a little bit, and then of course we're almost done our inside layer as well, just making this wreath come to life. And of course there I am fluffing and fluffing and fluffing. I just love playing around with this deco mesh. And here I am placing the last pancake on our wreath, adjoining those 2 open spaces, and look at our base wreath. I just love this method. It's so full, and this method is great if you have a screen door. It's nice and thin. It doesn't bulk up like other methods, so this is perfect if you have a second door or a storm door. Now I'm going to add on those ribbons. All I'm doing is I'm finding my center, gathering it together, creating a V shape with that ribbon, and then I'm going to start on the outside, and I'm just going to place that ribbon in between my first open pipe cleaners, and then I'm just going to twist it around a couple of times, use my scissors to cut off the excess, and then of course we just fluff up those ribbons a little bit, making them spray all out. We're going to move to the next open available stem, do the exact same procedure of gathering that ribbon, and then placing it right in there in between those 2 pipe cleaners. I'm going to start with the outside, and then once I finish the outside, there's 6 stems on the outside. I'm going to move on to the inside 6, and you just do the same procedure as I did for the first row. And here we are doing our last one, cutting off the excess. And now we've added our ribbon onto our beautiful pancake wreath, adding a little pizzazz and a little je ne sais quoi. And I love this ribbon. It has a little bit of color splashes in it, and I just love that. From afar, it looks black and white, but up close, it gives a little bit of color as well. And here we are, my sign is all ready to attach. All I'm going to do is take those pipe cleaners we glued on before, feed them through to the back wire frame, and then I'm just going to give it a couple of good twists at the top and at the bottom and secure that sign right on there. And I'm taking a look at it. I'm going to fluff it around with those ribbons, and I'm just kind of looking at it going, I think it needs a little something. And of course, when there's always that thought in my head, I just start fiddling around with the ribbons. I fluff everything up. You can see I'm doing it here. And I'm thinking, you know what? I think we do need something at the bottom of that sign. Has to be filled. It's kind of blank. So I decided, let's make a bow. So we're going to create a bundle bow today, and I'm going to cut my pieces at 18 inches. So this is that 2.5 inch wired ribbon we used before. I'm going to do 7 pieces, cut at 18 inches, and I'm only going to dovetail one end of these ribbons. So I'm going to finish that off, and then let's create our bow with the good side facing down at your ruler. Put your finger at the 7-inch mark, fold it over, and then come in 1 inch from the edge. So it's at 12 inches, gather it together, use your piece fingers to hold it. We have a loop at the top and a tail at the bottom. And I'm going to continue this for all 7 of my pieces. Don't forget to put your ribbon good side facing down. Once that's all done, I'm going to tie the center with a pipe cleaner, and I'm going to tie it again a second time just to make sure it doesn't go anywhere. Cut off that excess, And now I am just going to flatten out those tails. Now the good side is facing down, so I want to make sure the tails have the good side of that ribbon facing down as well. You can see here I'm twisting some of them such that the good side does face down. And then once that's all done, of course, on Dave's recent things, we have to fluff up a bow. It wouldn't be one of my videos if I didn't fluff up the bow. And we're all ready to attach our bow to our wreath. And I'm going to use a whole bunch of hot glue because I'm gluing it right onto that wood disc right in the center. And I'm just going to hold that in place a little bit while I fluff up those bows. Of course, you know I can't help fluffing those bows. And here is our final wreath with our Amazon inspired sign right in the center, that pancake method, and this 2.5-inch wired ribbon that I just fell in love with. I love, love, love that ribbon. Here it is hanging on my door, the final result shining in all of its beautiful glory, saying welcome to anybody who comes to your front door. Thank you so much for joining me today while I created this pancake method wreath. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you can be notified whenever I upload a new video. Thank you so much for watching. Take care. Bye for now.